And what up, everybody? Welcome back to Pro Publications YouTube channel. This channel talk about zines and DIY publishing. As many of you already know, I publish something called Feral Comics that has cartoonists from around the world, underground subversive comics. Bam! If you are interested, there will be a link in the show notes to connect you to the work that I do. But beyond that, today we're here to talk about, boom, Mental by Kris Chaos. But I do want to say, first of all, trigger warning, a lot of the stuff that this covers, a lot of the stuff that Kris writes about is heavy stuff. A lot of it deals with mental health issues. A lot of it deals with just depression, suicide, and things of that nature. So if that's not your bag, if that's not a topic that you think will benefit you in any way, like the video and I'll see you guys next time. But if this is your bag, let's go ahead and get into the zine right now. So here we go, you guys. This is Mental by Kris Chaos. It is a straight up text, not a very large print, just a few pages. Opens up with a poem, but there is something that Kris always does with everything that he writes, is that he really does set a tone, a mood. He kind of is able to, I guess, to communicate a sense of emotion. And this one is really dark and heavy because there's this sense of hopelessness, and there is an arc. And this is probably one of the stranger ones that I've gotten from Kris, because some of the other ones are just of a time period, are of an experience, and a very raw way of writing, a very human way of writing, of just literally giving you the information as close to what he can relate to us. And that is always fun and interesting, especially if you're reading about a certain time period, a certain subculture, or a certain work environment, that that we watch on movies and TVs, but don't get first-hand accounts of. This is a first-hand account of depression, of being institutionalized due to mental health reasons. And there is an arc, which the arc is, in the beginning, there is this very deep sense of hopelessness, and there is this sense of like self-loathing and like self-hate, honestly. And as it progresses, you begin to see that Kris starts to kind of he begins to identify with other people that have mental health issues, and through that kind of build a sense of community and begin his journey of self-love. And there's a lot in this that I liked, and one of them was that the way it's written, it opens up with like this despair and hopelessness, and you don't fully understand what's going on, and then you realize somewhere in the middle point that Kris tried to kill himself in a parking lot, and he mentions that truth bomb just so matter-of-factly, like if someone was just offering you a cup of coffee. And that's another thing that I really enjoyed about this zine as well, going back to a cup of coffee, was that he really did build, like I always say, like he does an amazing job of really setting a tone and a feeling to an environment. And this idea of like the decaf, and they all want real coffee, the cigarette breaks, that was another thing that just really added to the feeling of this world, this experience, right? Like it really lets you feel the experience through Kris's eyes, this idea of living for the smoke breaks, of missing coffee. And so then the arc is that. And so, Kris is basically setting up with this emotion of depression, of hopelessness, this idea of kind of connecting with people and finding a reason, which in the end, I love the way Kris says it, of like he's doing it for himself, not for his art, not for people, but for himself. And then from there, he starts his trajectory to, I guess, self-love and his eventual release. And then to end it off, he says, this book was written 10 years ago in October of 2008. The original title of this book was 3 Days I Will Never Forget and 7 Months I Wish I Could. The 7 months portion of this book was removed because it did not work with the flow of the book. So now we have Mental. Here goes his email address, krischaos@yahoo.com, Instagram @KrisChaos, And then he put the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-825. Razor Books, which I thought was an amazing name for a company. And now that I have more context into Kris and his life, this just takes on a whole nother meaning, man. Heavy stuff, man. And like I said, at the end of it, there's another portion of this that wasn't released because Kris didn't feel it flowed with it. But Kris, I'd love to just read that in and of itself, maybe as a solo piece. I really do love and dig the way Kris writes. Once again, it's a very human way of writing, a very human way of communicating, and it's hella refreshing in that way. And especially because a lot of the things that he talks about is so heavy and somewhat depressing, but also relatable. The human tone that he writes with, just it makes it connect, at least with me. So Kris, if you have that lying around, man, maybe you should dust that sucker off and publish that. Beyond that, man, as always, all the links to Kris's work will be in the show notes for you guys to peep him out. He is, once again, of Porn Shop Clerk fame, as well as the 90s grunge zine that he did, which is also another fucking really good zine. So I'm really digging the way Kris writes. And if you guys are interested in this zine, Porn Shop Clerk, or anything else that he's making, once again, that's going to be through his imprint, Razor Books. But beyond that, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Lates.